What we're going to talk about today is AMS Basic, which is just a simple setup and get you going procedures that you have to run through your display, your system, so we spend less time sitting in the field gate and more time actually running the machine through the field.
Being a little bit more specific, what we're going through today is Layout Manager, GH&I, and how to import, export data in the TCM Cal.
You guys will probably see quite a few PowerPoints throughout the day, so we're going to switch things up and actually use a training device that John Deere gives us access to.
And this is available through Stellar support on johndeere.com.
Can everyone see that okay? Good? Yes. Okay. First of all, we're going to go through Layout Manager. At first, the first things first, we want to see the screens that we want to see. Right here, we have our home screens. We're going to go to the main menu to set them up. We're going to click on Layout Manager, and they give us all these different templates we want to use. It's whatever one you guys want it, how you want to set it up, but a lot of guys are using F and G. Some guys use A. So we're going to go, for our first page, let's use F. Okay, we're going to click on this first screen here, and we're going to get a whole bunch of different options. Now, if we go on GS3, that's where you're going to find your mappings and your guidance. Click on that, and then we have 14 different options. You can go through them, whatever one really suits you. It doesn't matter. You can click them. Then we're going to, over here we usually have client, farm, and field. So when you're in the field, you're going to be able to see what you're recording right there. Easy access to that. Okay, so that's your page 1. If you want to go here and then to the page 2, you can also click A, F, G. A lot of guys are doing G for this one. You're going to have your 3 different. So you can click on the top. Yep. Green Star, you have your performance monitoring. You also have your combine. Yep. Do whatever. You do everything. Then you can do, just click on it. Yep. A lot of Green Star, that's again a lot of people do client, farm, and field for that also. Or a map. And then your combine controls.
On your S-Series combines, it gives you an option to actually set, if you want to go to that page, Lucas, you go to the next section.
This one?
Yep, go to performance, go to combine. On your S-Series combines, it gives you an option to set this on one of your home screens. What it does, it is let you make changes right there without having to go through your menus, find that kind of stuff. On your 60s, 70s, and up STS combines, you actually don't get this option unless you go through the menu and up to combine settings. But we have another option there that lets you monitor what it is, but you still have to go back through and change it through the tree system.
Another thing on Layout Manager is if you're setting this up and you get a message that says controller not found or something like that, if you've taken your display straight out of the planter or the sprayer and put it in your combine, and what it's trying to do is it's trying to find that sprayer or that planter for that given option. We just need you to go back in and reselect it because it's trying to find a controller that's not there because you're not pulling a planter with your combine. It's not the same controllers, so you need to go in and reset it.
So essentially, instead of talking, the display still thinks you're talking to the sprayer or you're talking to the planter, when in all reality you're talking to the corn head or the bean.
Is that it, Susan?
Yep.
Okay. And what I'm going to go through is I'm going to go through GH&I, which are our basic setup, our measurements, that type of stuff. The main things that are going to make your combine run and make it run correctly. So we're going to go to the D tab, which is Green Star. And as you can see here, we've got G, H, and I, resources, equipment, and document. These are the main screens you're going to have to set up to make it work. We also want to make sure that what we're inputting into these are the correct things, because if we don't put in the correct measurements and the correct data, we're not going to get the correct data back. So that's where you'll hear the saying garbage in, garbage out. you don't put the right stuff in, you're not going to get the right stuff out. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go to our resources tab, which is G, and this is where we're going to input our client farm field and that type of thing. Here, you also want to make sure that you put in your task as harvest. This is important because we don't want the combine to think it's planting or spraying. Things won't work right, and you're not going to get any data that's worth anything.
We always ask that you fill, when you come in to fill this stuff out, if you're going to use your data later in the year to make decisions, make sure you fill it out to the furthest extent you can. What that means is obviously your client, who's the farm, the field, the task, crop season, but then also put your operator in. We want to form accountability for every action taken. Somebody needs their butt chewed if something gets screwed up.
So we write Jake in there?
Go right ahead. When you call me, it might not be the answer you want.
Next, we're going to go to our H tab, and this is where we're going to tell our machine what it is and the measurements for it. As you can see here, with the newer combines, this will pre-populate because it communicates back with the display and stuff. But we've got machine model. This is where you can set what machine model you're using and then the machine number, as well as naming it.
On your newer machines, your S-Series combines, they should pre-populate that when you hook things up. It should automatically pop up in there. But you'll still have to give it a personal name, whatever you want to call it.
And then the next thing we want to do is we want to change our offsets. Now this is where we're going to pull the tape. This may come in pre-populated, but we want to make sure that we go ahead and measure it with tape anyway. A lot of things can affect this, your tire pressure, and that type of thing. So we want to make sure that we pull the tape and measure these correctly. A would be your lateral distance from center line of the machine to the GPS receiver. This usually isn't going to be an issue unless you have your GPS receiver offset to one side or the other. On the stock mounting brackets for most of the combines is dead center. And then we've got B, which is our inline distance from our steering axle to our GPS receiver. So, our non-steering axle. So we're going to go from our non-steering axle to our receiver. C is the inline distance from our non-steering axle to our connection point. So we're going to go from the non-steering axle to the front of the feeder house. And then D is the vertical distance from the GPS receiver to the ground. We want to make sure that we're measuring from where the yellow meets the green on the receiver straight to the ground on a flat surface. This is the one that will change more than the others because this is very dependent on your tire pressure and your rubber. So we want to make sure that that one gets measured. And next we're going to go to our header. This is where we're going to name our header and that type of thing. Sometimes on the new S series this is going to be grayed out because you're actually going to have to do it on the command arm, not in this. It's just something that they've done.
Yeah. For how many guys here do we have that run an S-Series combine? Do we have any S-Series on our here? Okay. Yep. That is one of the wonderful perks of the new series machine is they want to take more off the display and put it on your command arm right next to you.
Yep. So whereas your offsets and stuff here should come pre-populated if you're running the newer machine. A is the inline distance from your connection point to rear of implement. So it's usually going to be 0 on a header because you're going from where the header meets the feeder house. And then B is your inline distance from front to rear of implement, so the front of your snoot to the back of your machine or back of your header. C is the lateral distance from the connection point to control point of the implement. What we recommend as control point is where your header would meet what it's interacting with. So your gathering chains and that type of thing. Just like on the planers, we recommend C-tubes or the reels. And then the inline distance from connection point to control point of implement, that's usually around the same area. Once again, this may be grayed out on your newer series combines because they want you to do it on the command arm. Next, we're going to go to our document tab, and this is what we're going to tell it what it's doing. One common thing we see on this is, as you notice here on the top, it says harvest and new. We want to make sure that at the top it only says harvest and new. If you have more than one tab there, it's not going to want to record, and they're going to call us and say something's wrong. We're check your tabs. If you're switching between your crops, we want you to just go to change harvest settings, and we want to change what the crop type is there.
Right, because if you add a new tab versus changing your crop type, the machine will think that you're combining corn and soybeans at the same time. You're going to have two maps.
It's not going to work.
Yeah, when you go back to look at it later in the year, it's asking you, well, what did you really do here? And then we have to go back and straighten it out later on in the season.
And if you guys have used Variety Locator, what we're going to want to do is input. We want to make sure that our brand and variety are filled out. It can be something generic, but as soon as the header hits that variety, it'll know, and it'll switch if you have Variety Locator checked. I believe that's it for me.
What I'm going to talk about, first we're going to talk about TCM calibration, which what the TCM does is it tells the machine how it's sitting on the earth. When your GPS unit sends down a signal, it's sending a signal straight down. So if we're on flat ground, it knows the combine's right here. Versus if you're on a side hill, it sends that signal down. The combine might be over here versus where the GPS says it is. What the TCM does is it creates an offset for that, and it counteracts that distance. When you first start up your display, it'll ask you to calibrate TCM, and then periodically it'll come up with an alarm saying TCM calibration required.
We want to recommend that you guys do this as much as possible, because with drift and stuff like that, it's really important to make sure you keep calibrating. Do it as often as you can.
Yep. You know, if it's something you guys can get into every day or every other day, that would really make your information more accurate. In order to get to the calibration, what we're going to select is Starfire 3000, and then we're going to go to the setup page. And then right down here we have 3D TCM, which says it's on for the display. The machine will automatically turn it on. Then you have to select calibrate. What this is saying here is for calibration, what you need to do is you need to line your non-steering axle up. So on your combine, it would be obviously your front wheels, your drive tires. On a 9 series tractor, it would be the same way around. It would be your front wheels. On an 8 and down, it will be your rear. What it does is you need to find a point of reference. You know, typically I use like telephone pole or a big fence post in the corner of the field on a level surface. It has to be on a level spot on the earth. You can go ahead and hit the next button, and it's going to calibrate the TCM for the direction you're facing. So say we calibrated it facing east. Once that calibration is done, we actually have to turn the vehicle physically around. So instead of facing east, you're facing west with the non-steering axle lined up on the same point. You hit the button again. Your TCM is now calibrated, and your lines and points will be more accurate, so we can make better decisions later in the year. And the display will put barking at you. That's nice too. One other thing that I have to talk about is data for importing and exporting data from your displays, so we can make these decisions and see the maps that Terry talked about in the previous class. In order to do that, the display actually has a rubber cover on the side here. It pops open, and that's where like a regular USB thumb stick or flash drive will be put in the machine.
As well as on your 2600s, you have your card.
Yep, and then on a 2600, it'll be your SD card that you have to slide in the machine in order for it to work. Normally when you put the flash card in, it'll automatically prompt the screen. If you want to go ahead and hit that. For the simulator, you actually have to force it to do it. What this screen does is obviously called data transfer. It gives you the option to export, import, or import prescription files. Do we have anything to export right now?
We can export any. Yeah, I have one set up.
So at the end of the year, and preferably any time during harvest, you know, while you're sitting there waiting for the combine to fuel up, or you're waiting for your turbo to cool down, stick your thumbstick in the machine or on your 2600, do an export. This keeps your display running quicker, and it doesn't have as many hiccups, and then it prevents you at the end of the year when we want this data from taking 4-hour display exports. No fun to sit through, I guarantee you that.
As well as if the display were to fail in any way and you lose that data, you've got your most recent set already on the card, and it'll take less time as you go through because you're just replacing the file that's already there and adding a few more fields at the end of the day or whatnot.
You want to go ahead and hit export there, Lucas. When you go to export data, select the export button. This is what will come up. It's what it wants you to do is it wants you to name the file that you'd be able to see on your computer when you put the flash drive in your computer. So what we can do is you can tile down to either a previously saved file or you can create a new one. So you can go ahead and name it whatever you want to do. HE, that's nice equipment. And then you just like begin transfer. What it does, it transfers your file. It says data transfer is complete. Now everything you harvested is no longer on the display. Well, it still is on the display, but it's on your flash drive as well. So it's in a saved in 2 locations. You're not going to lose it if one of the other fails.
What we want to make sure you guys understand is that this is a copy, not a transfer.
Yep.
We're actually copying the data. The data is still on your display, but we're copying it to your flash drive.
And then you just accept it and end the operation. And then for import, it's the same thing as export. Just put your flash drive in and select the import name. And then it'll let you come in and you can select the name of the file that you gave it on the computer. So if you run it through your Apex or you have your consultant do a card setup for you, whatever they named it will pop up here.
Yep. Because we're using the simulator, it only recognizes what we have exported as available to import. That's why you'll see the same
And
file
then you
stuff.
just, like before, begin transfer. And it'll just tell you, it just gives you a little warning here saying that you bring stuff in, it's going to overwrite what you previously imported in the machine. And then you just select yes to get through that. Transfers the files. Transfers complete.
If you guys are running a 2630, make sure you have a clean flash drive.
Yep.
For sure, because if it wants to import other things, that's going to mess it up. So
Yep.
just make sure that your flash drive is dedicated to this and only this.
You want to make sure if you're bringing something in that it's the only thing on the flash drive. It prevents errors or somebody making a user mistake or something like that. We also have some cheat sheets up here for you guys. This goes through some of the basic stuff. We've got GH and I on one of them, or on them. So if you guys are interested in those, you guys can come up and grab those as needed. I highly suggest you guys go check out our expo booth. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. Throughout the day, if you guys have any questions, or if you have any questions right now, we're here to answer them. You'll probably see us around. Just grab us and we'll try to help you out as best as we can. Is there anything in particular involving like the stuff that we went over today that you guys would like to see? Let's go through more in depth or anything like that, or
Don't spell any brains.